a miraculous cross. Excuse me. Bless you or bless me. Hey, that's my line. You can bless others, but you can't bless yourself. That's the life of a priest. Here are the funniest Pope quotes of all time. One of the best parts about being Catholic is that we have a Pope. And throughout the history of the church, some of these popes have been some of the most interesting figures of all time. Many known for their leadership, their intellect, their sanctity, and some for their legendary sense of humor. Hey guys, I'm Father David Michael Moses. I'm a Catholic priest. If you enjoy these types of videos, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. So first on this list is Pope St. John Paul II. We know he was an actor in his youth. He loved theater, poetry, and he actually spoke 15 different languages. He had just an insane memory. People said that they would meet him one time, and then years later they would see him again, and he would still remember their name from just that one meeting. So during a conclave, an elderly cardinal approached Cardinal Wojtyła, who would become John Paul II, and he asked him, "Your Eminence, I have heard that you ski, climb mountains, ride a bicycle, and swim. I do not believe that it is fitting for a prince of the church." And apparently the future pope said, "But don't you know that in Poland, 50% of the cardinals do the same things?" Of course, the joke there is that Poland only had 2 cardinals, and he was one of them. Someone asked him if he thought it was unbecoming for a cardinal to ski, and he said it would only be unbecoming for a cardinal to ski badly. Pope John the 23rd with this quote: "It often happens that I wake up at night and begin to think about the serious problems afflicting the world, and I tell myself, I must talk to the Pope about it. Then the next day when I wake up, I remember I am the Pope." That's kind of a flex to be the Pope. But honestly, what a serious responsibility to have. You are one of one in the world. He also said this: "Italians come to ruin most generally in 3 ways: women, gambling, and farming. My family chose the slowest one," which I'm assuming was farming. He did come from very humble beginnings, but God calls who he calls. Someone asked him before his election to the papacy what he would do if he was made the Pope, and he said, "I would pray for the cardinals who made such a terrible mistake." Final quote from him, and this one is my favorite. He said, "God knew from all of time that I would be Pope. Couldn't he have made me better looking?" Pope John the 23rd was actually known as the Good Pope because of his warmth and his sense of humor. He was also known for escaping the Vatican during the night, wearing a disguise, and he would go out and talk to the people on the streets of Rome, just to pray with them, to talk about the church. Pretty extraordinary. Next up, we have Leo the 13th. So there was this guy who came up to him in an audience, and he told him, "I met Pope Pius IX just a few days before he died." And without missing a beat, Pope Leo the 13th said, "If I would have known that you were so dangerous for popes, I would have postponed this meeting for a few years." Gotta love it. He was the oldest pope to be elected at the time. He was 68, but he lived to be 93, which got him the nickname the Eternal Pope because he just kept living. He wrote 86 encyclicals and famously had a vision of a conversation between God and Satan that inspired the St. Michael prayer, which is one of my all-time favorite prayers. And he was the first pope ever recorded on film and audio. Kind of cool. Then we have Pope Francis. May he rest in peace. This is just kind of a humorous story about him. Apparently, pretty soon after he was elected Pope, he called a Jesuit religious community. And he said on the phone, "Good morning, I am Pope Francis, and I would like to speak to the superior." The receptionist, a young Jesuit, apparently said, "Yeah, and I'm Napoleon," and just hung up the phone. He clearly thought it was a prank call, but it actually was the Pope. Apparently, Pope Francis also said, "Old age is a seat of wisdom, but it is also a chair of hemorrhoids." Then we have a story I mentioned in a recent video where Pope Francis was talking to a Swiss guard, and he told him he could sit down because he'd been standing there for hours and hours. And the Swiss guard said, "I'm sorry, Your Holiness, but my orders are to stay standing." And Pope Francis said, "I'm the Pope. You can sit down." And he actually went and got him a sandwich. Pretty great. Then we have Pope John Paul I, who said, "If someone had told me I would have been Pope one day, I would have studied harder." Even just as a priest, I can kind of relate to that. Like, I did know I was studying to be a priest, and I worked really hard in classes. But even now, sometimes I wish I could go back and see some of the textbooks and look at some of the papers again, because I feel like there's so much more I wish I knew. Pope John I was only Pope for 33 days, just over a month, but he left a lasting impression in the church for his gentleness and for his sense of humor. He actually called himself the Smiling Pope. He once joked that he didn't mind being called John Paul I as long as no one expected a John Paul II, which of course was the name St. John Paul II took right after him. We then have Sixtus V. This is a pope in early church history. Some people brought him to what was said to be a miraculous cross that was bleeding, like there was blood coming out of the cross. And when he got there, he realized that there wasn't actually anything miraculous going on, and he kind of had a hunch that it was a hoax. So he took an axe and he said, "As Christ, I adore you. As wood, I cut you." And then he just split the cross in half. And sure enough, there were these sponges inside that were soaked in kind of a red liquid and some kind of fake blood. So it looked like it was oozing out blood, but it was just a scam. So a sense of humor, but also a willingness to call out falsehoods when he saw them. He was known to be ruthlessly efficient, which makes sense. He turned Rome into a much more modern city with new streets, monuments, that kind of thing. And he was kind of known for having a short temper, but also a great sense of humor. I have a couple more popes I want to get to, but first I want to throw in one more from Pope John XXIII because he just had so many good ones, and this relates to our next quote. He apparently said when a reporter asked him, "How many people work at the Vatican?" he said, "About half of them," alluding to the fact there could have been some more efficiency there. This kind of relates to something Pope Benedict XVI said. Someone asked him about how many people worked in Vatican bureaucracy, and he said, "I don't know exactly, but I think it's a few too many." Of course, we know Benedict was a brilliant theologian. Check out some of his books. They're incredible. He also had a great love for cats and classical music. He said that being elected to the papacy for him was like having a guillotine fall on top of his neck. Real quick, I want to let you guys know about our Concerts for Life. Each summer I get together with an all-priest band. I write all the music, and we do a series of shows to support women in crisis pregnancies. It's a packed show start to finish. It is a blast. I really think you'll enjoy it. You can check the link below for tickets, and hopefully we'll see you this summer. Okay, one final story from Pope John XXIII. I just love so much of his stuff. Apparently he was meeting with a rabbi one day, and they had this beautiful conversation, and they got up, and as they were walking out, the Jewish rabbi invited John XXIII to go first, but apparently he responded, "Please, Old Testament first." An obvious allusion to our Jewish roots and how the Old Testament comes before the fulfillment of Christ in the New Testament. Then we have a story of Pope Paul VI. One day, he apparently called the Convent of the Holy Spirit in Rome, a religious community. A nun answered saying, "Hello, this is the Mother Superior of the Holy Spirit." The Pope replied, "I'm sorry, you'll have to accept speaking to the lowly vicar of Christ on earth." He was known as the Pilgrim Pope for being the first pope to fly in an airplane and visit 6 different continents. You know, at the end of the day, I don't just think it's okay for the saints to have a sense of humor. I think having a sense of humor is part of sanctity. It's part of holiness. To be able to make fun of yourself, to be able to see the absurdity in the world around you. Oftentimes, a good joke gets to the truth of something, to the heart of something, in a way that no other form of speech could. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know what you guys think. If you have other funny quotes from popes that you've heard that I might have missed, please let me know down below. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. God bless.